Rap Boys. My name is Cody. I am joined by Jordan here. And one day I'm gonna actually work on an intro, like a thing that I can say.
Kind of have like your own little just like a saying, like a little.
Yeah, like a tagline.
Yeah.
I feel like that's something that we need at this point. Like I think we've done. This is episode 4. If you're joining us, this is episode 4 or something like that. At Lunch with the Boys. But at this point, I'm feeling it. I'm getting into the groove. I'm here for it. But
Yeah.
I think I just want I don't know,
Yeah.
I want that catchphrase.
A
I need a
little
slogan.
good morning Vietnam kind of intro. I get
Yeah.
you. I get you.
Yeah. Maybe not good morning Vietnam.
No, I wasn't suggesting it, Cody. I
Well,
was only giving you an example.
I was like, I don't know how many Vietnamese listeners we have, but if you're a Vietnamese small business owner, I would love to chat with you about both your small business and your country. But let's get this link out. Let's get everyone invited. Let's make sure that we're live on the channel. Do all the checks. You know how it goes at this point. Oof.
How have you been, Cody?
I've been good, man. It's been it was a really good weekend. It was a really good warm weekend.
Definitely.
I actually had a lot of fun this past weekend. You and we had the chance to get out there and play some Magic the Gathering. We had the chance to play some disc golf, get out there and appreciate the sun. It's
Yeah.
honestly been a pretty good summer so far. But I will
Yeah.
say, oddly enough, as I've aged, my summer's gotten busier and busier, man.
Yeah.
Just more and more.
I think that's just kind of life. That's just kind of how it goes.
Yeah, time gets quicker, and all of a sudden it fills up with a lot more. Which I do think that was hilarious. We had this conversation the other day where we were talking about time, or not the other day. It was probably a month or so ago at this point. But Sam and we were talking about it. It was like, okay, so 1 year when you're 10 years old is a full 10% of your life. Like that's a big amount of time.
Yeah.
But now I'm 31. 1 year is 1/31st of my life, which is a much smaller percentage, 10% compared to 3%.
Yeah.
So my years are straight up 3 times as quick. They matter 3%, or well, not matter, you know what I mean, but they take up 3% of my life
Yeah.
as opposed to 10%. So they
It,
just go quicker.
it's similar to I had a friend once who like was talking to me about like driving a car, and like a car like passed us going really going fast, and like he's like it's not going as fast as you think when you think about it, because like going from 0 to 1, that's infinite speed. You're 100%
Hmm.
faster. You're going so much faster than you were. Then you go from 1 mile an hour to 2 mile an hour. You're still going twice as fast as you were, but now 2 to 3, you're not. It's not the same increase to go from 2 to 3 as it
Yeah,
is to go to 1 to 2. It
it's like
technically is, but also isn't. Like in the grand scheme of things, it's less of an acceleration. And then so it's like the difference between going 55 and 60 is way smaller than the difference between going 10 to 15.
yeah, actually, and that's a really interesting way of putting it, because I immediately think of okay, so if you're driving around a residential area and it's a 25 miles per hour and you're going 30 or 35, I'm much more likely to see you getting a ticket going 35 and a 25 than if you're going 65 and a 55.
Yeah,
Because if
exactly.
you're, I mean, I grew up on a road. I don't know if you had this where you were at, but it was normal to go 70 on the 55.
Yeah.
Like we
Oh,
had 14-mile going down the road. If you weren't going 70, you were getting passed.
yeah. Yeah, I had a similar situation. I've been blessed to kind of have lived in every type of scenario. I've lived in a house on a dirt road. I've lived in a house on like basically a small highway.
Mm,
I've lived in an apartment complex in a parking lot, and then I've lived, on just a little like subdivision street. I've
yeah.
been in it all. So yeah.
You get to experience all that. I feel like that's kind of like the millennial way. Jordan and I, we're both the same age for anyone listening, but we throughout our 20s, at least throughout my 20s, I know I spent a lot of time moving around just a bunch
Yeah.
of different places. It was really normal to spend a year or two at an apartment or, renting a room and then move somewhere else.
Yeah.
It was extremely common. And it's only recently that I've kind of settled down in one location for more than a year or two.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, but
Let's talk
anyways,
about. Okay.
go ahead.
Nah, I was just gonna continue a conversation not pertaining today's topic, so it
I
doesn't
was gonna
matter.
say we usually get all the shooting the crap out of the way early, and then we have a good chunk of it at
Then
the
we get to
end.
the
But I
fun at
did
the
have
end.
one topic. We had an idea heading into this.
Yes.
We wanted to talk about how you grow your team. So obviously, Jordan and I, we work for Good Rep Media. Good Rep Media is a small business marketing agency. I like to think of us as boutique. We help small service-based businesses basically manage their online reputation. We help you rank better on Google. We help you rank better in the SERPs. We help people find you, and we help you have consistent messaging across socials, website, and everything else that you're doing. With that said, one of the issues that we've had kind of crop up with our clients is hiring new people, bringing on new talent. And one of the pushbacks we've received as a marketing agency is, well, why don't I just hire a marketing person? They can do all of this for me, and they can take that fee. So I kind of wanted to dive into it. I'd love to pick your brain, Jordan. I know I've done a little bit of hiring. I know you've done a little bit of hiring in some different scenarios as well.
Yeah.
So I thought we would dive into this, kind of chat it out, and figure out, like, where we're at, how we feel about hiring.
Yeah.
So start that off. When is it time to grow? When do you feel like that your business is ready to go? If we used a lawn company as an example.
Yeah. It's time to grow when you're beginning to work outside of your means, when you have more leads or more opportunity to work than you have means to fulfill it, when you have 12 lawns to cut in a day, but you have, 5 people to do it, and you can only do 10 of those 12. Well, that's a clear cut sign, haha, pun intended, that it is time for you to get out there and get someone else. um Making sure that you're not kind of falling behind as a company, and that you're not leaving anything out there to be claimed by a different company, essentially.
Yeah.
Um
And I feel like there are always, using the lawn care example, there are always multiple lawn care companies out there. There are always more lawns that you can get. But for example, one of the lawn care companies we're working for down in Florida, they're number one. We're number one across the city. We're getting organic leads 5 to 6 a day. And at least 2 to 3 of those are converting into paying customers. And that's a really, really good number to have. We're growing really quickly this summer. It is warm. It is the time to get lawn care. So we're definitely like hitting that stride. We're ranking well at the right time. But that all comes down to kind of the strategy of everything here. And so what I've noticed with the lawn care company specifically is like we're expanding out. We're adding on trucks. We kind of think of things as, okay, what do we need to do to have a complete new route? Because when you're a lawn care company, a lot of the ways that this works is you are hiring people to run a truck, run a crew, and then that crew has a route similar to a postal driver or a FedEx delivery driver. And so once we have those routes kind of figured out and we're signing on more customers, we can only expand those routes so much until we need to add a new one. And when you can add that new route, when you have the absolute minimum, using your example, Jordan, where you're like, okay, you have one truck that can handle 10 yards a day. Now all of a sudden that truck is up to 12, 13. You're like, okay, split that up. Now that truck's at 7, we get another truck, that truck's at 6. Now let's fill those trucks up with the rest of the people on those routes, expand those routes out. And you're constantly reworking those routes, but that's kind of how the lawn care company would approach it.
yeah. Yep. Really just ultimately making sure that you are making as much money as possible. Like it's
Yeah.
going to be a cost to bring on someone, but as long as that plus minus kind of outweighs, once you know that the amount of jobs you are not taking, if you are turning down jobs because you can't fulfill them, if that amount that you are turning down is a greater amount than the cost it would be to hire someone new, the math tells you right then and there that it's time
Yeah.
it's time to expand.
Exactly. And I mean, I think it's worth noting that this is specifically for like team members. So like if you're a lawn care company and you're hiring more lawn care guys, If you are a massage therapist, like you're a single massage therapist, and you're like, okay, should I expand? Well, once you've got your structure down and you're generating those leads, and you're realizing like, hey, I'm booked up, that's when you should start looking. Another time to start looking is if you're running an ad campaign and you're like, okay, I've turned this ad campaign on and I can double it if I want to double my leads. I've got it locked in, I've got it working, and I'm ready to expand. If I bring someone on, I can get them filled up within a day. And that's a great spot to be in. You just need to know your ads.
Yes.
And that's, as a small business owner, that's where you get into the difficulties of, okay, you need to know how to do your small business, you need to know how to do all of your bookkeeping and your job and your service, as well as running ads and marketing, which is where we kind of get into the next part, I think, which is what person do you actually need?
Yeah.
Are you a massage therapist and you need to hire another massage therapist because you can't handle all of the clients that you're bringing in? Or do you need to hire someone for marketing and social media to help bring on more clients because you want to start offering a higher ticket item? There's different ways to go about it.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is probably going to be one of the harder spots for us to be able to give any
Mhm.
type of advice, because this is one of those niche moments in the process where it's like, well, this is going to be unique to you. This is going to be like finding the right person for your business is only going to be the right person for your business. I can't
Yeah.
tell you like here are the signs to look for someone who's going to be a great construction worker, you know. Like
Yeah.
I couldn't give you the advice on what qualities to look for. Now there are generic things, you know, like you don't want someone who's showing up to your interview late, you know. You don't want
Oh, the best practices for interview. Oh my goodness, man.
yeah, and like obviously you want someone who's gonna like show up dressed nice, but like I also am someone who's like you think you ever seen that movie Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith? You
Yeah.
think about that scene where he shows up right out of like he was just painting a house, and then he shows
Mhm.
up to an interview for his internship, and like he's wearing like painted pants and like all torn out, and like someone's like, what would you say if someone came in here for an interview with no shirt and completely dirty, and I hired him? What would you say? And he's like, he must have had on some really, really nice pants. You
Mhm.
know, like I like I don't think that what you're wearing is as indicative of like who you are. So like it's tough to say like if someone comes in dressed like a slob, that's probably not someone you want, because like I don't know that I believe that. You know,
Yeah.
some people maybe just can't afford nice clothes right now, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to be the person for your job.
Yeah.
Showing up late may be a different circumstance, though. Like they better have a pretty good excuse to be late. You know that's a little bit different and a red flag.
Yeah, and I mean, even then, when you start getting into the idea of excuses and all of that, like, no one is perfect. You're never going to find the perfect
Yeah,
employee.
I mean, so someone might be late because they got in a car accident in their parking lot, and guess what? The fact that they are still there, you know, even if they're only
Yeah,
5 minutes late in a circumstance like that's actually a positive in my eyes. You know, it's like wow, they still
yeah.
got here, like through all of it.
But the
That
thing
they
is,
still got here.
are you in that situation as a hiring manager where you're hearing that excuse, and this is your first interaction where that with that person?
Yeah,
Like,
I get,
as
I
someone
get
who's
it.
like been the hiring manager, and I've definitely held interviews with people who show up and they're like, "I'm so sorry, I'm 5 minutes late to like a virtual interview." Even they
Yeah,
show up late to a virtual interview and they're like, I was having internet issues, I was having fundamental, easy to understand, like this is stuff that happens,
yeah.
and that's fair, and it definitely does happen. But also, this is my first interaction with you, and
It's
my first interaction with you, I have nothing else to base my opinion of you on. You have to recognize that first
yeah,
interaction you have with someone, and this is for any employee, anyone who goes out there and looks for a job, not our target audience, but that first interaction is extremely important because it's the only information I have on you other than your resume, which you wrote and curated to put in front of my eyes.
yeah.
So, like, yeah, I would
So
hope that during that interview process, someone is able to kind of step up and do those things. But at the
yes,
same time, as a hiring manager, you got to give people the benefit of the doubt sometimes. When they
Mm,
show up 5 minutes late, if they nail the rest of that interview, give them a second interview so that they can show up on time and prove that they're willing to do
yeah.
the thing.
in this circumstance, I'll give advice both to the hiring manager and to the employee looking to be hired, the potential employee. To the
Mhm.
hiring manager, it is recognize exactly what you just said, that you are going to feel a certain way on an initial impression, but also understand that you're feeling that way because it is your initial impression, and that there is still more to learn, and be open to learning who this person is. Now, to the employee, turn those moments, like if those moments are going to happen to you and you got to be late, you got to show up with a stain on your shirt, find a way to do like I said and turn that into a positive coming into that. Be like, yeah, listen, I hit a hurdle on my way here, but I overcame that hurdle because this is important to me. You
Mhm.
know, like I think that says a lot more than when I ask you, tell me a time when you had to do this at work and it was difficult, you know, like
Yeah.
guess what? You just
Well,
gave me an example of that. Like
you gotta
negatives can
vibe
be
check people.
positives if multiplied by negatives, you know?
Yeah, and you definitely have to vibe check people. Like you have to be on that level of human. And I think
Mhm.
this like it all stems or all comes back to the idea of subscribing to being human. Like being human is recognizing that we have faults. Sometimes the internet goes out. Sometimes problems do exist. Now, sometimes problems get made up and exaggerated and they don't exist. And so you are going to end up in that situation where you have an employee or you make a bad decision, you hire someone and they don't work out. But being accommodating in those scenarios is just kind of part of what you want to be as a human. Like
Yeah.
it's part of being a good human in my eyes, at
Yeah.
least.
Yeah.
Not always possible. People
and
are crazy.
and you know, if like we're talking to small businesses here, if this
Yeah.
is a Fortune 500 multiple $1 million, where like you're hiring someone who they being late could cost you $1 million, yeah, then maybe
Mm,
that is something that you don't look at it the same way we're looking at it, you know. It's all there's a podcast I watch. I don't watch a lot of podcasts, but there is one that I watch, and the people on it's a sports one. The people always have a saying. They say situations are situational. You know, every
mhm.
every single situation that you find yourself in is unique. It's not going to be the same as the situation you found yourself in last week, and maybe what works here wouldn't have worked then, or maybe what would have worked then won't work now. And every job interview is going to be different, and know what you're getting into, know what you want, and that's going to be the best way to prepare yourself.
Yeah. And I think that's a good segue into the next step where if you're a small business and you're looking to hire some people, like you want to figure out if you're hiring someone new and you're willing to train them up, if you want to hire someone with experience, and you need to know if you're hiring someone specialized or generalized. If you're hiring a auto technician to change oil, they just need to know how to change oil. You can train them up. They don't need experience. If you're trying to hire a massage therapist, you need someone who is licensed and ready to work and accredited. And that's something you need to pay attention to. And as the owner and you know business manager of your company, that's something that I would expect you to be on top of and know what they would need.
Yeah.
Um, but with that, when you're actually looking to hire some people, how would you go about finding a new person? If you're a small business owner, Jordan, how are you finding? Where do you go first? Where's your first stop?
First thought is any of the thousands of websites now that do it for you. Indeed, um,
Indeed is
on a
the first one that's top
Glassdoor.
of mind for you.
Yeah, Indeed is definitely the first one. Um, you know, you can browse, like, depending on what the industry is. LinkedIn can be a good place
Yeah,
for finding potential talent. Um, there's smaller industries. There's lots of job groups on social medias. Those can be a little bit more risky. Those
yeah,
I feel like are a little less vetted. People have a tendency there to like be like, hey, I need a job under the table, please, and it's like, well,
yeah.
that's
You're
not
you're
that's
talking
not
about
what
like
we're
the
looking for, you know.
all the informed groups. I'm sure like right now, if you go right now to your city informed, you probably have a Facebook group and you can probably see people posting about wanting jobs or needing jobs. A lot of what I've seen in those groups, at least for our local area, is lead gen. It's a
Yeah.
bunch of people posting and they're like, hey, work from home jobs, 35 to $55 an hour. And I'm like, that's not real.
And then
Like,
like all it really is, you click here, you give me your information, and I'm just gonna sell it to Indeed for them to turn around and potentially maybe have a job that is kind of
yeah.
close to what we said.
And using Indeed as an example, any
Yeah.
company could be in
But
there,
now,
literally
but
anything.
but but we're talking about it from a company perspective.
Yes,
You
from the
know,
company perspective.
so being the on the hiring side of that, you still may find yourself running into people who are just like spamming anything that comes up, and be mindful of that. But at least it's not, that your business is legit, that you
Yeah,
posting on that are like, you are legit looking for real people, versus looking at these companies posting and being like, is this real? Is this even like an actual post? Is this a bot? So there is a benefit there. I think being on the hiring side is more beneficial, like in those Facebook groups, than being looking for a job is
yeah.
being
And
beneficial.
I do think if you're going to be doing job posts, especially if you're going to like post something on social media, you want to have a system in place. You
Yes.
don't want to go to Facebook and be like, message me or
Yeah.
comment here
You
with
don't want to
whatever.
dig through 100,000 messages. You're going to get bots. You're going to get fake people.
Yeah.
You're going to get unqualified, and there's no way to organize it.
Yeah, and I mean it's also people on social media are probably skimming your job post more than anything else.
Yeah.
In that type of scenario, what you want to do is you want to create a listing on Indeed or a job posting site of some type. For Good Rep Media, just as an example, we have a jobs or careers section on our website. You can go there, you can fill out the form, and that's what we use. So we created our own little Indeed system. When you fill out that form, send us your information. It all gets emailed to us, and we compile it into our backend.
Now that
Same as
system can still be combined with the social media, though, as long
yeah,
as it's a social media that allows you to share that link to it. You can
exactly.
come up with the system and then promote that system through social media.
Exactly. Make that web page, make that job listing where you can link to it. And then once you have that link, go to the job groups on Facebook, go to, Twitter, go to TikTok and make a TikTok and use that link and be like, go apply here. Um, that prevents people from spam messaging you needing to go through a bunch of DMs of people who randomly type things up, because if they don't follow your system, you already know that they're not they're not good listeners, they're not good at perceiving information, and that's not something you want. So
Yeah.
if they don't go through the proper channels, to avoid them. Oh,
So Cody,
moving on from that.
when you've done hiring, what was really your interview process? What was that? Was that really like?
Yeah. So for Good Rep, I've done quite a bit of hiring for our company just in general. For Good Rep specifically, what we have done is we usually come up with a job description and what we need accomplished. Usually it's some task, an idea of like, okay, um, let's use a media coordinator as an example. This is a role that we're looking at possibly hiring for. Job description is not up. We're not putting that out there yet, but this is something that might be coming down the line in the future. A media coordinator. The first thing that we did is we identified a space where we were kind of lacking, where we were a little bit overwhelmed, which was in content. We enjoy writing content. We enjoy linking content. We have a really great writer on staff, Pierre, but we have noticed that he was getting overwhelmed with the amount of content we were producing. We were bringing on more clients. Our work was increasing, and we were like, okay, we definitely need to help lighten his load. And so I went back and forth with him. We identified a few areas where he could use some support. And then once we had that baseline of like, okay, some keyword research, some direction, ideation, so that he's not always ideating on all these different topics, he's able to instead focus on actually writing and doing the research on the topics that are presented to him. It would speed up his process a lot. And so that started the core, the kernel of what this media coordinator would do is organizing and giving Pierre keywords and content. Well, that involves being in SEMrush and doing keyword research. So while they're doing that, I would also add on to their workload, auditing our current sites, keeping track of some of our data, as well as possibly helping write copy and content for projects. And so now this media coordinator role started as they're going to help Pierre, but it's not just an assistant role. It's going to include more. to make sure that we can encompass the full breadth of what that coordinator would be. And they also have the chance and ability to grow into other roles, specifically into project management. And that would be the career trajectory for this. As a small marketing agency, and this should be similar for almost all small businesses, at least any that I've interacted with, when you hire new people, they're not necessarily stepping into a role that's already been filled. There's usually not an empty seat and they have an exact job description where they're ready to go. And so you kind of need to make that up. You need to come up with that job description and make sure it encompasses most of, if not all of, what that new employee is going to be doing. And that was at least how I went about it. I don't know if that's correct. Like, let's
Yeah.
be fair here.
Well, what was like, so, you wanted to make sure that they were like qualified to kind of like fill in like the content role there, but like
Yeah.
what were like the questions that you asked to kind of deduce if they were qualified for that?
Oh, so we haven't started hiring for this yet. But like, if I
Or
were to
what
go
would
into
be,
it,
I'm sorry,
yeah,
what
yeah, yeah,
would be?
in the
Yeah.
future. Oh, so the main things I would want to ask for, or I would want to see, are base levels of experience and professionalism. I think more than anything else, a lot of marketing concepts can be taught, and I do think it is. It's not insanely high level information to know that in order to rank better on Google, claim your Google business profile and fill out all of the information.
Yeah.
It's not terribly difficult to understand that if you want a piece of content to rank for a certain keyword, that you use that keyword in that content. Now, the organization, how to set all of that up, that I can train, that I can teach. So my main questions would be surrounding a base level of professionalism, a base level of ability and understanding. I don't necessarily need someone who's done this job before. I don't need someone who has a ton of experience, has worked marketing at a Fortune 500 company and all of that. This is a role where I would want to train someone up as long as they have a basic idea of what marketing is and they're
Gotcha.
willing to learn. And it's much more of a mindset, I think. And that's what we look for at Good Rep in general. We're not always looking for those extremely experienced people. We do hire them and we have them.
Yeah.
But usually when we hire for new roles like this, it's for the go getter attitude, so to
Yeah,
speak.
yeah. So that kind of answers like what the next question I was kind of building up to ask here. I was about to ask if you kind of felt like in an interview, like if the person answers a question like confidently or like show in a way that they're showing like that they are open to learning the answer to that, would you rather have someone kind of like fumble their way, like say you're like, hey, how would you do this, and they were like, oh, I think I would maybe kind of do it this way, and like it's a correct answer and it's a way that would do it? Or would you rather someone be like, hey, I don't know how to do that, but that's something that I would like to learn, and and these would be the steps that I think I would go about learning how to do that, but like did it confidently. What is more appealing? Someone who knows what they're doing but maybe is a little unsure of it, or someone who like is open and honest and is like, I don't know how to do this, but I'm willing to learn how to do this.
Yeah. Well, so let me say it like this. Hey, job seekers. If you are interested in finding a job and they start asking you questions and you don't know the answer to, I want to see you try. I want you to try. I want you to acknowledge and I want you to be honest and authentic with me. I think authenticity is huge. That you don't know what the right answer is, that you don't necessarily know what's going on. I don't think it's wrong or incorrect to admit that you don't know everything. But I want you to try. I don't want you to just throw your hands up and say, I don't know that, but I'm really loving to learn. I want you to try and fail and then tell me that's the best that I can do with my knowledge base right now. After this, this is what I would go do to solve the problem. These are my 3 steps. This is what I would check. I would go to ChatGPT and type in the problem and see what it gave back. I would then check that ChatGPT prompt over by Googling it and comparing it to a Reddit and Quora thread. Once I had a baseline level of knowledge down, I would go back and try to solve the problem. If that didn't work, I would do this, blah, 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 blah. Whatever that solve might be, I need someone or I want to hire someone who can think critically about the problem and move forward to solve it. And I think that's really what our most recent hire, James, he is a web developer. He comes from like a web security background, or not a web security background. He comes from like an IT background, I think. But I brought him in for web development because he had the go-getter attitude and the experience working with a company that was very much, um, how should I say, difficult to work for, but gave him a lot of autonomy. So
Yeah,
he was problem solving for himself, and I think that's the most important thing.
I agree.
Does that make
I
sense?
yeah, no, I agree very much. I think the
My
ability
elitist.
to like identify an issue and fix that issue on your own is across the board in any industry one of the best skills that you can have.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking as a manager, the more an employee, like you bringing on an employee is going to be a headache. If you're a small business owner, you're bringing on a new employee, there are going to be growing pains every single time. The goal with a new employee is that you're able to bring them on, and after you experience those growing pains, they settle into a position, and then you experience less pain afterwards. Like it should be okay. We're slowly getting worse. There's slowly more and more pain. Let's hire someone. Immediately goes up, and then it should go back to being less painful than it was before you
Yes,
hired that person. They should relieve some of that stress.
yes,
And if that person that you bring on requires nothing but constant training and can't make a decision for themselves, doesn't have any drive, that's going to be what takes up more of your time.
yeah. At the end of the day, you are hiring to improve your business. Like as much as I'm an employee, so it's like I want to be like, the employee. You're hiring an employee to take care of your employee. It's like, well, you're not. Like
Yeah, as
you're hiring someone to like improve your business and like your income, and ultimately you can't bend to make it easier for your employee that you're hiring.
yeah,
um
and I mean, there you definitely can, like, there is the goal of like taking care of your employees, but the employees do need to do the work.
yes,
Like at the end of the day, there's a job to be done. This is a professional environment, and a lot of service-based businesses, they operate in this like family mentality, and that's a really great mentality to have. Of like, I want to make sure that everyone who works for me is taken care of. I want to make sure that everyone who is like on my side basically is taken care of. I think that's a really, really like honorable thing to do. I do think that's something that companies should do more of. They should be providing more of a community, more loyalty to their employees. But specifically with onboarding, the goal is to onboard people that can help you. And I do think I'm thinking of a couple of different scenarios where I've seen some businesses hire certain employees whom they were, family friends or things like that, and they don't necessarily always work out. I think they
yeah,
call them Nepo hires.
yep,
Yeah, the Nepo hires they can be difficult. Some of
yeah,
them work out. We've
yeah,
had one
yeah.
really good one.
Yeah, like you definitely sometimes like a nepo hire. Like a good thing about some nepo hires, some nepotism is like a lot of the times they've been around it. They come into it kind of understanding. If a boss hires on a son into like, there's a reason that like that type of mentality or that type of approach does work sometimes, and it's because like, well, that child grew up with this business. Like there can be a chance that like he's been around it his entire life. Maybe he knows things about the business that even like the dad, the owner, doesn't know, type of approach. And so that could work out. But then if it's like, hey, I've had an owner who's been like, hey, like I met this guy, he's my neighbor 2 doors down. He works on videos. I think that he'd be
Oh,
really good for us to bring in. And it's just like, one, yeah, sure, but like, is he the best person? Like, sure, he might know what he's doing, but is he the best person for us to bring in, or is it the easiest person for us to bring in? Because
yeah.
that seems
Is
like
it is
that's
it
the
a
route
you
you're
got
taking right
sold?
now. Yeah,
Yeah, I can 100% agree with that. We've definitely had some odd ones, but I do see Sarah in the chat here. I 100% agree. I think she's agreeing.
yeah,
Some of the best people that you can hire are people with less experience to no experience, as long as they're willing to check their egos at the door.
yeah. I've she's talking there. She says some of the worst hires were friends being hired, you know, and I have a situation. I didn't hire this person, but I've gotten a friend in like into a job with me before,
Hmm.
and like I'll admit, like even when I was at the job, you know, I was kind of like, you know, it was at the bath place. I was, you know, my job was to basically like clean up and then just stand there and wait for people to come in, and like I told him when he was getting the job, I was like, it's really easy, you know, it's a lot of just waiting, you know. And then like he got the job and he was like, well, I'm just gonna sit here and wait. And he didn't do like any of the scrubbing the tubs in between or anything like that. And then I was like, well,
Oh,
man, now I got you in here, you know, like you're my friend. I got in here, and it's like I don't want to be like, hey, I know I told you that this job is really easy, but I need you to work, you know. But like that's
yeah,
kind of the approach I ended up having to take with it. Was like, hey, man, like I told them like, yeah, like he can come in here. I know he can do the job. I just need you to come in here and do the job, you know?
yeah. And that's, I mean, that's a difficult spot to be in, especially when you are hiring friends or getting friends jobs and stuff like that. It's like, hey, you reflect on me now. Like this is a reflection of
Yeah.
me and like my word. I went out on a limb for you. And I mean,
And me personally, that terrifies me being on the other end of it. I've had like so like my brother's best friend is someone who does like sports videography, or like he like films like interviews with professional athletes and does all this really cool things and gets to like meet people like and do all these cool stuff. And he's like, you know, like I could potentially get you in as an internship if we put my name down. And then like I was like, well, I don't know really like how good I will be at that. And so like I was like, I don't want you to put your name down associated with mine on this, because like
oh,
I'm afraid that I'm gonna show up and just fail. And then this is
well,
gonna
now,
like
okay,
reflect
that
on you.
sounds like anxiety,
It is.
friend.
It is. It is. Like I said, like I preface that by saying like it is a scary thing for me,
Yeah.
because like I have that thought, and like I've never done anything like that. And like there's a part of me that's like I think I could be good at that. But on that same note, I don't want to risk your profession that you have worked for years getting yourself into a position for by me thinking I could do good at something, you know?
Yeah. But I do also think like specifically like in this instance, you got to have that confidence sometimes. Like you do good work. You do good things. And I personally, I think this is something that a lot of people do need to work on, getting into the philosophy of it. Um I read something really interesting about trusting your future self. Um and it's the understanding, especially with people with anxiety, that if something bad happens in the future, that you trust your future self to solve that problem. You don't need to worry about it. You don't need to solve that problem right now because you trust your future self to solve that problem. And so, cultivating a self now that you know, if that came up, if something bad happened in the future, that you will step up and do the thing. And I think that's one of the like, maybe to get a little philosophical here, to get a little bit deep into the weeds. So I'm talking about kids in the next couple of years, possibly. But the idea of like having a kid is terrifying. You can never be prepared. You can never like fully know what it's like to be a kid. But to kind of get over the anxiety of that idea, I think of it as I trust future Cody to figure that out.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's like to raise a kid. I don't know what it's like to have that stress. I can't because I don't have one. But I trust myself in the future, if I were to be in that situation, that I would handle it and I would handle it with grace.
Yeah.
And that's it really helps, I think, with that anxiety.
Sarah puts a good point down here in the comments. Not necessarily going off of exactly what you just
Mm,
said there, though, but tying it back to that kind of go-getter mentality during the interviews that we were talking about. Um, that kind of goes hand in hand there, where it's like, um, someone like you want to hire someone that you don't get the vibe is going to let you down, you know. You like
mhm.
you don't want to kind of have this feeling when like they're talking to you that's like this might be a bit of a gamble, you know.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you if you have someone come through and like their attitude and their mentality puts it really puts some of that anxiety you may feel at rest a little bit. Really kind of makes it feel like, okay, this person, if I hire them, my company is in good hands with whatever it is I'm hiring them to do, then
Mhm.
there's that instinct is probably a good one. That is something to recognize and act on.
Yeah, and I more than anything else, again, as I think more, as like I get older, vibe checks are real, man. Vibes of the conversation, the vibes of the person you're getting off, like I
Awesome.
said, people are not perfect. People are going to have flaws, and that person that comes up might not have the perfect interview. They might not have the perfect resume, but the vibe that you get from them, do you think that they can solve the problem? Do you think they're going to be helpful to you? And more than anything else, I know that's what I look for. I don't necessarily look for all that experience. I look for someone whom I know will either go out of their way to solve a problem or is at least willing to step up and try to figure it out. And then I can train them all in all the technicalities. I mean, I do think training, constantly being better and learning brain plasticity. I know I bring this up all the time. It's really important. And so I know I request that our team is constantly learning. We're constantly working on new certifications, new classes, new courses, and things like that, just so that we're constantly upskilling. And I think that's really important. Cool.
Never go
Yes.
into your
Sorry.
current interview, into a job interview, complaining about your current past job. That's a big red flag for an employee or employer. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, no, agreed with that fully, Sarah. But sometimes, sometimes it is so hard not to. Sometimes it is so hard not to because
Oh,
like a lot of the times that's why you're doing the interview is something about that job is just triggering you, but yet you are absolutely correct. You
yeah.
can't do that. Like I've been in interviews before where they're like, tell me about the last job, why do you want to leave? And it's like, I don't want to sit here and talk bad on what they do, how they operate. I
Yeah.
just want turn it into be like, I don't want to attack them, but I just want something organized. I want something
Yeah,
that's like
you have to do the compliment sandwich, and you have to be you have to be political with it and make sure that you're not
like
disparaging them,
don't
because the situation is you're probably not going to work at that company for the rest of your life anyway if you do get hired,
don't
and then you're
talk,
going to be answering a question about them.
you can't talk about them directly if you're going to talk about negatives. Talk about what you learned about yourself from being around the negatives.
I like that.
Like
I like that a lot.
if
That's a good one.
a company is like super disorganized or just say that, be like, I learned that I want to be around a company that is able to organize itself or its like work patterns or anything like that. Just find a way to be like, this is what I learned about how I want to work by being in an environment that wasn't like that.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot to go through. There's a lot to go through with that. We do have a couple more bullet points. We're getting lower on time. I actually wrote up
Dude,
notes for
we're
this.
40 minutes in and on track, dude. This is
I
crazy.
honestly,
This
I'm a
is
little proud of
wild.
us.
Yeah, me too. All right. How do we get off
I,
that?
I will say maybe notes are the way to go, but maybe not so many notes. I don't want to be too scripted.
Yeah,
We need
I
some
think this
comments.
is great. Bullet points like we got here. I think that we're
Fair,
tackling this well.
fair, fair, fair. I'm still thinking that we need to have Subway Surfer or something going on in the background,
Uh,
man.
I'll play WoW, dude. I'll open up World of Warcraft and I'll
You're
just play
gonna
WoW
just
while we
gold
do
farm
this.
the full hour.
Yeah, exactly.
Get out
It
of
wouldn't
here.
even be gold farming. You'll just see me in the Orgrimmar auction house posting auctions for 3 hours.
uh, but anyways, okay. So you're a small business owner. If you're looking to hire, you definitely want to make sure you know what you're hiring for. If you're hiring someone general, if you're hiring a specialist, what the role is. Making sure you have a good job description. You're going to want to post something on a job board or create a web page so that you have a link where people can go put their information in. If you can't create a link, if that's something that you can't manage, have them email their resume with a specific headline. Always specific headline, and then ignore everyone who doesn't do it. You're going to get a lot of people who apply to these types of jobs. So just be ready for that.
Yeah.
Um, One of the other things to pay attention to is some of the costs of
Yeah.
hiring. If you want to run an Indeed ad, you want them to promote it, it's going to cost money.
Yeah.
When you hire an employee, you're going to have to pay them. You're going to have to handle payroll tax. You're going to have to handle that bookkeeping.
To a lot of
There's a
CEOs, to a lot of CEOs, they only see one cost when hiring an employee, and that is how much that employee costs. But there is a lot of factors, as
Yeah.
I interrupted you listing off all of them.
One of the costs is being interrupted constant. But no,
Didn't
there
hire me,
are.
bro. Too late now, though. Ha ha, I'm here.
Well, I will say, so I know I'm trying to think, like, so when we hired James, some of the hidden costs, SEMrush, we upgraded.
Hmm.
Uh, we got ChatGPT, paid subscription. We got a couple of like specific plugins that we were paying for, and it's just like a little things like that to be
A
added as
Trello
another
board.
seed on our software. Trello board, all that stuff.
Yeah, just everything. Like, I mean, we're lucky enough that we are in we're owned by a
Larger
company
company.
that has like a large trickle down system of like company emails. We have the means to create those and like don't have to pay for each of them, or like storage in like a database. um
We have our
you
own
know,
servers.
we have our own servers. We have the means to kind of um you know watch everybody, or like like to pay for whatever anybody's got to do. But
Yeah,
yeah,
we have the
it
infrastructure
can
built up because we are from a
tally up
larger company.
fast.
Yeah, we have that infrastructure set up basically so that we can handle bringing on more employees relatively
But
quickly.
not everybody would do that.
Exactly.
Most of our clients aren't in a position to like do, like I said, like have an email made for it, have a company email made like easily. You might have a website, and if you have a website, you could do it, but you might not even have the know-how to do that. You
Yeah.
may have to hire a marketing agency like Good Rep Media, um to get out
Yeah,
there and
and
make those for you.
I w- and sometimes those I'm thinking of one of our massage therapy clients. He was working with a larger company, so he rents a unit in a building, and the people who own the building have their own website and their own setup. Well, those people are working with a separate marketing agency, not us, and that marketing agency charges them by the half hour to make edits to their site,
Yeah.
and which is insane to me.
That's
Absolutely insane.
crazy. Like, we just needed him to have like a link changed, and they were like, "Well, it's going to cost a half hour." I'm like, that should take 30 seconds, and
Yeah,
it took him like 2 weeks to do it.
yeah, it was actually an absurd
Yeah,
situation. So you can also be in a situation where you're like hung up on a marketing agency and they are taking advantage of you and charging you by the random half an hour to change out links. If you're in that situation, reach out to us. We can definitely help with that. We're not in the business of charging you for swapping out a link on your website.
what's
That's
crazy was, I'm sorry to vent on this, but like
oh
the
no,
link
this is
that
good.
they had went to another page that they made that did nothing.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
oh, they
That whole
should have
situation.
reimbursed them a half hour for the first time that they built it. Like,
Yeah, that was a bad one, and honestly, it could have been better. I think they're still with that marketing agency. We've reached out, but I guess that's what they enjoy is
only
paying
so
a
much
hundred
you can
dollars for
do.
30
Yeah,
minutes of work.
some places and people just don't like change, and so once they've got something set up, they won't change it. So
Yeah, but with that said, I mean, I think this is a good enough segue to be like, yeah. So if you're in that situation where you're trying to make up a website, you're being held hostage by some marketing agency. If you want to generate leads, if you want help on social media. I've noticed a lot of these smaller businesses are like, I need to hire a social media manager. I need to hire someone who can do all of these things. I need to hire someone who could be on my team to do all of this. It might just be smarter. It might be cheaper. It might be better for you. You might get a better result hiring a marketing agency.
yeah.
Um, this is the shill. This is the meat and potatoes here. We're good rep. We're a marketing agency. We help small businesses, hopefully like yours, rank better on Google. We help you with your reputation. Yeah, it's on that side. Actually, Jordan got the right point this
Let's
time. This is a good day.
go! Yeah!
uh, glad that we got there. But with that said, if you're a small business owner, we can help you out. Hiring someone to do your marketing, paying them a salary, paying them an hourly to come film TikToks, there are definitely options. But If you're looking for help on a website, if you're looking help on your Google business profile, if you're looking for just someone to talk to about content creation, schedule a meeting. I will be the one that you meet with. Literally, just go check us out. There's the
Could
link.
we? Do you
Put
think
it
us
right
at
there.
Good Rep, you could hire us to be your hiring managers? Do you think that's a? Do you think that's something that we would take on? Like, be like, hey, if you just need to try and find someone to be a fit for your company, you can hire us, and we'll do hiring for you.
We could
Maybe it's
theoretically.
just a
I
thought.
the
Like I said it
it's
as a joke, but as I kind of developed it, I was like, wait, hold on,
I
wait.
mean, so there are definitely staffing agencies. Staffing agencies are a thing, and it's not something that I would immediately discount offhand. I think we would be open to helping with
Learning how
that
to do it
scenario,
because we have that go
especially
getter mentality.
well, exactly. It's the go-getter mentality. If we had a client and they were signed on and we were building them a website and they asked us to help them with some hiring, I think that's something that we could definitely work out. It would probably be something that we would need to discuss. It would be a consultation fee more than anything else. But yeah, I think that's something that we would definitely help. And I think that's one of the things that makes Good Rep a boutique agency. We will find a solution that works for you. We
Yeah,
will work with you to find a tailored fit solution that is exactly what you need. If you need a specific website with a specific CRM and a checkout process, and you have a great offer, but you want it done this way, we'll do that. A lot of these marketing agencies will hold you hostage and charge you for every half hour of edits that
link
they have to
updates.
do, or they'll charge you for a cookie cutter website that won't rank and is takes them 2 weeks to put together, but doesn't have anything you actually want on it and doesn't do anything. So if you ever want a website built up and you want something that actually works, tailor fit, come chat. Chatting with me is free. And yeah, that's the best pitch that I can give. We're not salespeople. Check us out. It's here. Yeah, love to chat. No, not over there. Although I see your microphone. I feel like you were almost dabbing there. Um, and then yeah, I mean to end all this off, really, like if you're a small business and you're hiring new employees, vibe check. Try to avoid families. I'm not going to acknowledge you.
That's fine. Someone else
uh,
will. Someone else will.
Friends
That'll
and
be the
family
thumbnail.
can work out, can also be crazy. If you've not seen the new season of The Bear, or if you've not seen The Bear at all, go
Shameless,
check it out. Family's
shameless
crazy.
bear plug. No, it's not shameless.
Shameless.
Different show. Different Jeremy Allen White show.
Just an absolutely shameless The Bear,
No, not shameless.
produced by
Not
FX,
shameless.
streaming on Hulu.
Shameless is a different show. Same guy, different show.
I so I never watched Shameless, and I've been tempted to go
Yeah.
back.
Shameless is one of those ones that I've seen a lot of clips of on like YouTube. Not as
Mhm.
much as like Breaking Bad. I have basically watched the
You've
entirety
never.
of Breaking Bad through like YouTube clips. I've
I forgot
never
that you
seen
haven't
Breaking Bad,
watched Breaking Bad.
but like I'm like you with Invincible. You know, like you've never watched. I think you've started watching Invincible now, haven't you?
I
Like
watched the first season. I've
okay,
not watched the rest of it. I didn't read it.
second season kind of mid, third season peak. Third
Third
season is
season speak.
fantastic. Yeah. Um.
Is there's a movie, isn't there?
No, no, there's no movie.
Okay, I'm thinking of something else then.
Yeah. There's a Demon
I-
Slayer movie coming out here in like September, which I'm getting through Demon Slayer so I can finally watch that. I got one more
Um,
season of Demon Slayer left.
yeah, I'm definitely behind on Demon Slayer. I've
Yeah,
been watching. I started Made in Abyss, which
I've
is
not watched.
pretty good. Made in Abyss is like it's kind of high fantasy. It's cool, kind of crazy, kind of scary, kind of weird. I'm not that far
Sarah,
into it, but I've heard it gets
Sarah,
really
I
depressing.
know every single thing that happens in it. Like I have talked to people who have watched Breaking Bad. She's telling me to watch Breaking Bad in the comments. I have watched like so much on Breaking Bad that I have had conversations with people who have watched it and then like been like, no, that's not how that happened. It happened like this, and then they go, oh man, you're right. Yeah, I did get that out of order or stuff like that. And it's like I've watched a video that broke down every single episode. Like it spent like 2 minutes on every single episode and just kind of broke down what happened in it. I have watched the clips of the things happening. Um, And yeah, I get I can still watch it, and I don't need to rewatch Game of Thrones for the 12th time. But guess what? That's
I'm
what I
one
have on in the background right now.
100% gotta watch Game of Thrones. I
Game,
so I've
I,
watched Game of Thrones probably 3 times all the way through, and I will definitely watch that
I,
another, you
I've
know.
probably watched Game of Thrones 3, maybe 4 times all the way through. I think yeah, I think 4 times all the way through. And I just finished the second book, like 2 days ago.
Oh, yeah, you're doing audiobooks.
Yeah, I'm doing the audiobooks, and I just finished the second book like 2 days ago. So
Does the person reading the audiobooks do well? I heard, like, the person reading the audiobooks really makes or breaks the
yeah,
audiobook.
yeah, it really can. And this guy does pretty good. The problem with it for me is like my first experience with Game of Thrones was through a show was, and so
Mhm.
like I have these ideas for what the voices already sound like in my head, you know. So when he does them and they sound different, it's a little off to me. Like there's like he does Varys, but his Varys voice sounds more like Maester Pycelle in the show, where it's like, and kind of like this, you know. And it's like, well,
Oh.
like that's not what I know Varys to sound like. But now that I'm through 2 books of it, which is a total of 60 hours of listening to 2 books on tape, I've gotten very used to everyone's voices. I do like his Tyrion voice. He does a really good Tyrion, I think. Um he does a good John. His John is just kind of like his own voice, but um
Hmm.
yeah, he some
Go
of them he
figure.
does really good.
It sounds like Jon Snow.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, I sent you that one audiobook recording from Dungeon Crawler Carl, and that's the one
Yeah,
thing
I haven't listened to it yet.
people people really love that because the person reading it is really really well done.
Yeah.
Like more than anything else, I I think it's really funny. So Dungeon Crawler Carl, if you've not seen it, go read it. It's amazing. It's a Kindle Unlimited book, but it blew up in popularity because the person who was reading the audiobook is just really really talented. And so I know that it's blown up recently just because the audiobook, like on TikTok audio clips, is good shit.
Yeah. I told you about how like I've been using like Grok AI to
Oh.
like try and do like D&D like duet one-on-one, like it's my DM, and it's been working
Mhm.
really well. And I found myself like I did like an old wizard,
Mhm.
like the one shot that has turned into like a 3 shot. You know, I took that world I made and I uploaded it in, and then I took a character sheet and I uploaded that in for like the Wizarding Academy in like the Aventa area on the map that we talked about. No one else is gonna know what we're talking about right now, but I made it make this thing, and I was like playing this old wizard, and the voice is gonna be very similar to what I just did for Varys there. But like as I was playing the wizard, I was talking kind of in like an older kind of like voice like this, and like I realized that I'm doing it to an AI robot that is just taking it and transcribing it. And I'm like I loved sitting there getting into my character and doing the voices and stuff, but I'm sitting here saying it to a phone that I'm watching just like write it out in front of me, and I'm like, well, that's not doing it
It's a
in my
little
old
less fun.
wizard voice. You know, like
At least like subtitle it with like
yeah,
wizards,
yeah.
wizardly voice.
So I did kind of start doing that where I was like in a crackly, gravelly kind of like old way. I kind of mutter, and then like because I said like I mutter multiple times, it like kind of picked that up as a character trait of my guy. And so like when it's like, so what does the wizard do? What does Marlin do in this situation? What does Marlin mutter? And I'm like, that's
Oh,
hilarious that like you understand my character well enough to know that like under his breath he's going to be saying something while he's casting this spell.
it's gonna be muttering.
I want you to
Jeez.
know that I did like a 2 hour like with it, maybe 1 hour, I don't know, but like and that is like actively that is canonically accurate to things that are have now happened in the world that are going to influence when we continue that. Like what I did as that character is going to influence kind of like what is going on for when you guys pick up that shortened campaign.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
That will be super fun. We do need to revisit that.
Yeah,
Summer is
and
hard to get
and
back into
I've got
Dungeons and
plans for like
Dragons.
where it's going and everything. I've got like I have been like I haven't been putting things to paper, but I've been kind of putting it together and know where it's gonna go.
Heck yeah. But let's wrap this up. It has been lunch with the good rep boys. My name is Cody. I'm joined here by Jordan. We have loved being here to present this to you. Jordan's gonna play us out. If you're interested in getting started, if you're a small business owner and you're interested in talking about what we can possibly do to help you, from marketing to consulting to website building to design to graphic design, Good Rep is here to help you out. So we'd love to chat. Let me get that link on the screen one more time. Follow us down below. And thanks, guys. We will see you next week. Same time, same place.
Have a good one, guys.